Welcome back to another episode of the Four Elements United. I'm Wind.
Earth.
Water.
And I'm fire on the counterclockwise tip.
Yeah. Well, guys, I don't know, man. Today might be our first smoke show. We might be getting into it heavy today. I don't know if everybody gonna like us after this show.
Hey.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens at the end of this show. So everybody, our intent is to, break generational curses, and push us to another level. So a couple of weeks ago, one of our participants, one of the elementals, asked the question, what does the journey of self-discovery look like, or what does the inquiry look like on a day-to-day basis? And one of the most radical things I think somebody can ask themselves is, do I love myself? And do I love my community? And it's my contention that the manner in which we're behaving and acting and treating one another, including ourselves, is no. And one of the tests for that, or a test for that, is actually asking ourselves, does love show up for us each and every day? Does eating those Snickers or those Pringles demonstrate love? Does sleeping around with 4 or 5 women demonstrate love? Does working at a job that we hate, does that demonstrate love for ourselves? And so we're gonna get into it tonight, and I'm gonna stop right there and just let the other elements chime in about that.
I'll chime in. I think, and for me, love is very subjective, and we get to define what that is. And I don't think that there's one clear-cut definition, because if you ask 100 people, you'll probably get 70 different answers. Some people will probably say it's the same. So I think for me, love is subjective. It's based upon how you're living your life. How does it all occur to you? Because you can go many places in the world and they don't even have a concept of love. Or someone may say love is, they may give a romantic definition of love, something to do with romance. So it's subjective, in my opinion. That's just my view. So I'll park right there. What y'all got?
I'd add to that and say love is, I agree. First of all, I agree 100% with Earth. That it is subjective. And I want to go back to an example that Wynn spoke of. When I think about somebody giving themselves over to their desires, from one perspective, from a judgmental perspective, we may say somebody eating junk food, Snickers, candy bars, and smoking Newports every day, that is a form of self-hate. Mm-hmm. Because the impact of consuming those things are ultimately hazardous to the body. But somebody could take the opposite perspective and say that, well, to deny oneself one's desires or cravings of the flesh, or cravings of the smell, cravings of taste, is in fact self-hate, right? So going back to Earth's point about it being subjective, I also think that it's fleeting, right? Because so the definition of love is it's an intense feeling of deep affection. An intense feeling of deep affection. just when you put it on its head, it's like that thing is fleeting, very fleeting. And I think this conversation is centered around self-love. And I have to be honest and say, when I read the title, I thought we was going to be talking about sex. Like, what's love got to do with sex? But here we are talking about Snicker bars and whatnot. So I'm just curious to see where the conversation.
Well, we're not talking about Snicker bars. What we're talking about is doing the things that serve us, right? And doing the things that are in our best interest and for our optimal health and well-being.
What you got, Water?
So what I have is this. When did the opposite of love become hate?
Who said it had to be the opposite?
Well, that's what Fire was saying, so I'm talking to him. Self-hate. When we were talking about, you were talking about self-love, and I mean, a lot of people do this. So a lot.
It's just like hot and cold. You know, if I was in second grade and the teacher asked me what the antonym is of love, then 97% of the class would probably say hate or selfishness, right? That's a more enlightened answer. But no, it's just, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole about semantics, but it's just common love, hate, hot, cold, up, down.
Well, no, I think that it's a valid rabbit hole to go down for in a short distance, because I think that the reason why I'm going down there is just to say that a lot of people actually use the term love so frivolously that, I mean, I would gander to say that it has so many different connotations to people that the opposite of love being hate is that's not necessarily what I think of it. That's why I was asking, so Fire thinks that it's, the antonym is hate. What do you guys think? What do you think?
Well, that's why I wanted to clarify it and distinguish the fact that what we're talking about is what's optimally healthy for us. What serves us in the highest order.
Okay, so what do you think the antonym is then?
The antonym?
Or the opposite of love?
Well, the antonym would be hate. It would be self-destruction.
How about you, Earth? What do you think it is?
It just got real deep.
So for me,
in this context, that's what I'm saying. Go ahead, Earth.
Sometimes, I don't know if everything has an opposite. Now we can assign an opposite to it and say, this is the opposite of that, because it makes sense. If you're not this, then you're that. Right? So we can assign that, but who says that it has to have an opposite?
Now, I love that answer.
That's right.
That's a great answer. And so I will gander to answer the question instead of doing what Earth did. But I actually think that probably your answer is the best, Earth. But if I were to answer that question, I would say that the opposite of love is not hate. It's actually fear. That's what I would say the opposite is.
And I would add on to that and say that, one of the worst things that we could be is apathetic and cynical and being on sidelines and just let life go by and actually not do anything that's in our best interest to move forward and progress.
Number one answer. Survey said.
No. You go ahead. I like this.
Survey said number one answer in the world is hate.
Of course.
The number one answer in the world is hate.
Yeah.
Dislike, disaffection, alienation, estrangement, bitterness, coldness, indifference, repugnance, etc., etc. Infidelity, desertion, unkindness, malice, and uncharitableness are some of the things that come to mind. But to Waters' point, those things are all rooted in fear.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just so the reason why I wanted to even go down there, Earth, my apologies. I'm gonna get right to you, bro. But the reason I wanted to go there is because I think that we're talking about a topic, a word that is so, like I said before, frivolously thrown around, that most people use the word so fuzzily that, of course, the opposite would come up as hate. Like that would be if you go to people, ask people on the street, of course they'd be like, "Oh, hate, that's easy."
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wanted to actually. I figured that if we're going to talk about it, let's distinguish it. Earth. Sorry about that, my man.
You know, for me, it's, and the reason I said, "Who said it's that's what it is," is because it is how you respond when you don't love. That actually would be the opposite, and I think it's situational. If I fall out of love with somebody, I don't hate them. There are people I've dated that who I don't love anymore, but I don't hate them. I don't even dislike them at all. So I think your response to not having love is actually the definition of love based upon the conditions or the circumstance. And it could be fear, it could be hate, it could be a lot of things. It could be I just not, I'm not feeling it. It could be any of those things. And so that's why I gave that response. Like, you said it's hate. So yeah.
Blew your whole talk track up, Win.
Not really. Not really. You know, I'm a little interested in how we got to the opposite and talked about hate, but you know, like Earth was saying, you know, if you don't care about anything and you just do nothing, I mean, that's the definition of apathy. That's the definition of nonchalance, and you know, just sitting on the sidelines. And quite frankly, you know, what I'm suggesting is that we've been apathetic about our lives and about, you know, our community. And we've been sitting on the sidelines and letting life go by as opposed to, you know, building in a constructive and progressive way. And so that's why I wanted to, you know, discuss this topic because, you know, so what happens in life is that if you are not intentionally progressive, right? Anything that doesn't grow actively is in effect declining and in the process of uh, dying. And our community is dying slowly but surely. You know, every time we are, you know, doing things that are in opposition to our optimal health, anytime that we're putting up with something or putting up with someone that we know we shouldn't be putting up with, you know, we are dying on the inside. So I'm gonna stop right there and let you guys talk a little bit.
This is an interesting topic. Go ahead, Eric.
And so I have a different view. Because sometimes, in order to eradicate chaos, you have to introduce chaos. And they both will cancel each other. So I wouldn't say that the community is dying. This is not my view. I would say that things are being introduced so that things can cancel. and then you can create something new, can rise. That's just my view of it. It's not being optimistic, it's not being anything. I'm just viewing it from a spiritual perspective,
Mhm.
and what I've seen that has had to happen in people's lives, in the families of people, when they've actually done certain prayers, and they've done these prayers, and I've actually gotten phone calls and be like, oh, after I did that, things are worse. And I say, hold on, slow your roll, watch what happens. Just watch. Just sit back, be a fly on the wall. There's nothing else you need to do. And all these things will just begin to fester, they'll blow, and all these revelations start popping up. These things that were hidden become unearthed, and then poof, they cancel each other, and then peace starts to come. I've seen it happen time after time after time after time. So that's why my view is going to be a little different, because sometimes chaos has to be introduced. No different than, I often chuckle when people will say, well, you don't fight fire with fire, but that's how you extinguish a fire. You introduce another fire, and they come and they meet and they cancel each other. Poof. That's one of the most effective ways. So yeah, that's my view.
I'm with you. I think as I was listening to Win, I just got present to my own attachment to good and bad and right and wrong, which is a domain that I try when I'm mindful not to operate from. Um, some of the people who are in the best relationships are on their second marriage. Someone could subjectively interpret a divorce as something that is a bad thing, or the divorce rate as something that is, inherently wrong, when it's neither right or wrong or good or bad, right? It just is what it is. So what I think you're pointing to, when is the current state of relationships within the community contextually. I just want to get clarification before I go deeper, because if that's what you were referencing, I think that, well, I'll let you answer first before I go any further.
Well, I'm not talking specifically about relationships, but certainly, definitely, our relationships are certainly eroding over time. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about the love for ourselves, the esteem, the self-image that we have for ourselves. Somebody in the comments said that, we're indifferent. Have we become indifferent about ourselves? Why are we putting up with jobs that we don't like, we hate? We spend 8, 12, 16 years earning degrees and learning and mastering a craft to work for somebody else, as opposed to taking that knowledge, that expertise, and creating and building something for ourselves and actually being happy. Why are we sitting in relationships that don't serve us? Why do we maintain relationships with people that verbally abuse us, emotionally abuse us, physically abuse us?
Because for some people, that's love.
Yeah, that's their definition of love for themselves, yes. But is that the true test of love, is what I'm getting at.
But how do we even know what the true test of love is?
That's what I want to talk about.
It could be that for that person. If that is what it is for that person, look, I'm gonna go back to this one of my favorite books. It's When Women Run with Wolves. I think that's the title. And it's a book for women, but I'll pretty much read anything. A friend of mine recommended that book. One of the most impactful statements that the author made is that if someone has defined or told you what love is, and that is what you apply, have you really loved? Because you're loving someone else's love. You're not loving your love. And so, someone may be in a situation where that's what love is for them. And if that's what it is, that's their love. I can't tell them that that's not their love. I mean, I can say it, but you know, they won't be able to compute. And I start saying, this is what love is. I'm teaching them my love, or even maybe somebody else's love that I've just adopted their love, but it's not my love. What is love for me? What is my expression of that? And it could be two people yell all the time. I know people who yell, scream at each other, but they are inseparable. From my view, I'm not a yeller, and that is just a chaotic situation, but that's my view. However, for them, that's what brings them together. That's what they like. So I leave that alone. So it's very much like, what is your love? And you should be able to define that for yourself, not based upon some, I call it a theory of what love is. So that's my quarter that I added.
Yeah. So what you're alluding to is similar to the framework of the 5 love languages, right? Everybody has a particular love language. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But the question is the type of, and I get that some people relate things to love, but the question is, underneath it all, is it really truly love? What's the test for that? What's the measurement for that? What's the measurement for happiness?
But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time following the conversation because personally, like, I'm just listening to the worldview of what you just spoke, Win, and like I just don't see the world like that. So that's why I didn't really have much to say, and I just want to address that because you guys can go on and on and on, and I probably won't have much input about that, but I don't see the world the way that you just described.
Tell us your worldview. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, but I just want to put that out there because I think that we could sit here and say, why are like so many wars happening in the world and so many people dying on the streets and we could say that stuff. And look, if that's your worldview, that's your worldview. I think that each and every one of us has their own unique perspective of what the world is. However, for me, that's just not the way that the world looks. I mean, look at us. We're 4 men having a conversation about love. Okay. In a lot of people's worldview, that's not even possible in a lot of people's worldview, let alone 4 Black men, 4 African American men, like in America, in the country of America. There's just like, for a lot of people, like, that's just not in their worldview. And look at us. Here we are talking about love on a podcast dedicated to conscious masculinity. So I really think that our worldview really shapes it goes back to what I was saying initially. We use the term love so fuzzily that our worldview will shape what love is to us.
So what is love to you?
Love to me is something that we can't talk about. We can only point to it. And I think that's really what Earth was saying when he said there's not really an opposite to this. Because it's something to me that you can't define. For instance, when we talk about, hey, I was in love with this person, typically, and look, I've used a term. I'm not some spiritual guru. And I still use the term. Okay. And however, typically when we say, hey, I was in love with this person, typically what it is some sort of needy kind of attachment that we had for that person. It wasn't really something that doesn't have conditions, something that is eternal, something that's connecting souls. Nothing about that. It's literally just, oh, I had some sort of needy attachment to this person, and now I don't have that needy attachment to that person. And as a matter of fact, they did ABC 1, 2, 3, so I actually hate them, which is the opposite of love. And that's kind of, for most of us, how we actually operate and kick around this term that we're calling love.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I want to be part of this conversation. However, for me, I'm more of an observer of this conversation because it's almost like Bruce Lee says, the finger pointing to the moon is not the actual moon. And that's a really hard concept for a lot of people to grasp.
I totally agree. And what I was going to say is that there's not a litmus test for everything. You can't quantify everything. And for me, love is one of those things. There's no litmus test for it. We can, there's been some things made up around it. And I promise you, it doesn't apply to everybody. Because the moment someone says you love yourself if blah, 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 or you love this person if blah, 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 you telling me how I love, how I should love. You actually begin to define it for me based upon whatever formula you came up with or you were taught to actually quantify love. And it just doesn't apply. Like that love is just one of those things. It just doesn't at all. So there's no determining factor that is universal that exists. It's not.
Yeah, there's no one size fits all.
Fire's got that smile.
I'm saying we could just go ahead and close the show out. Now seriously, I think the way the conversation is going, the way the conversation is perfect actually, because I just tapped into the audience and the listeners, the people listening right now, people watching right now, and the people who will listen even in the future. Mm-hmm. Everyone in their own space is processing what's being said, and what's being gotten is the reality that everyone has a different standard, a different interpretation of love itself, and a different standard of care for the expression of said love from their perspective, right? My wife could say, and this is how I make these conversations relevant. When you try to get water to get in there, I'm gonna help you out. You have to make it personal, because there's no way for me to look at or observe two people in a relationship and say, he don't love you. Well, whose standard of love is that? What do you mean by that love? So you have to make it personal. And this is what I'm about to do. Let's say that my wife says that I don't love her because I don't buy flowers. For me, flowers is not an expression of love. for me, my expression of love and my standard of care that I give my wife is that, you know, we go on dates every weekend, right? I take care of her emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, you name it, she's taken care of, right? So if I don't get you flowers and she hits me with the you don't love me because you don't buy flowers, I'm just using this as an example. Then therefore she's placing her whole occurring world of love on me. But here's the thing. And then dismissing everything else that I do that I call love. That is the expression of love for me, the verb addition of love. Very subjective. What you get present to is the fact that in relationships, we're just we're throwing that word around to control one another. Because somebody would say, well, if you loved her, you would do what she determined looks like love for her. You would just do it because you know that that's what it means for her. So you begin to get present to all these love trade-offs. We horse trading, we swapping actions and behaviors to prove our love. And so I'm just extremely present to just extremely extraordinarily how subjective it is. And the feeling that I get, if somebody taught us, I think it was Danny who said this, if somebody taught us when we was 4 that feeling you get that we know is love is actually the language we gave it was hate, we'd all be walking around talking about, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you too. I hate you too. Right? Like it's just language and agreement. And this word in particular in the English language, man, is super great. So I don't know where we go from here, man.
Well, let me ask you this. On a personal level, what are some of the ways that you express love for yourself?
There we go. There we go. You got to make it personal. Now we can have a conversation. Because now it's subject to what I think and what I feel and my standard of care for myself. So some of the ways I express self-love for myself is giving myself adequate sleep. Some of the ways I express love for myself is a nutritious and proper diet that's high in vegetables. One of the ways I express love for myself is a gallon of water a day. Exercise, manicures, pedicures. Sometimes it's a stogie like it was last night. It was 2 stogies back to back. Chain smoke them things. Sometimes it's a vacation, right? Sometimes it's a hot bath, man, with the candles lit. Yeah, I do that with the bubbles and all. I got the jet tub and some music, some R&B playing with a glass of wine, you know? So it varies, like, you know, taking a hike out in nature out here in Cali. Sometimes it's giving. Like my expression of love is being of service and giving to somebody else. So those are some things that come to mind. Service.
Water, earth.
Sometimes a minivan.
So it's an excellent question. It's a lot of what fire actually said for me. It's taking care of my my physical, mental and spiritual well-being. Like that's high on my list. It's very important. Making sure that I get adequate exercise, my diet, a lot of self-care. And I know that when I'm not providing self-care for myself, then I get off. I'm just off. And I don't like being off. It's not my favorite thing. Even I like their activities that I enjoy. I remember I spent some time. This is when I mountain biked really heavily, and life happened, and then I stopped mountain biking. And I realized that I missed it. So I started training, and the season was coming up. So I jumped in a mountain bike race, and what I really got in that moment is like what it meant for me, because the moment I got to the race and I was unpacking my gear, as I unpacked, I literally started crying. Like tears were streaming down my face. And initially I was like, why in the what's like it wasn't even just came out of the blue. And what I got in that moment is that it was part of my self-care that was missing. It was part of how I express love to myself, by getting, an adrenaline rush, by racing, and you're climbing, and you just ride until like it feels like your heart is literally about to pop out of your chest. That is just, for me, that's like self-care. I love that. And so I got in that moment that I was returning to, one of the things I enjoy, one of the things that provided self-care, for me. And so it's like really taking care of myself. That's how I really express and I show love to myself. That's just me.
I like that. I like that. And for me, it is literally just creating an entire world around myself that empowers me, inspires me, and really makes me want to be the best version of me. So, for instance, I'm a big relationships person. So, I'm really big on making sure that I take the time to reach out to my friends. I make sure that if my friends say, hey, let's go and do X, I say, you know what? If I'm in town, if I can actually make it work, I say, you know what? All right, I can do that. Not like, oh, I just want to be lazy around the house. No, I'll go out and do that. To me, that's really important because I think that just being around other people is so important it's a great way for me to express love. Whatever that thing is that everyone so fuzzily is subjective to everyone. When I'm with others, being able to share myself with friends and family, to me, is one of the ways that I actually I experience love and express love. The self-care that everyone talked about, of course. When I create my world, I'm a big fan of hobbies. So I'm a big fan of trying things to see what it is that I'm interested in. And one of the things that I really fell in love with, that I was completely stunned, because I hate the cold weather. I hate being cold. So if anybody knows me and has been around me, literally everyone else could be warm and I'm freezing, and I'm just like, man, I'm done. Like, I'm going inside, or I'm going home, or hey, turn on the heat or get me warm. And I went skiing probably about 5 years ago and just thought, wow, where have I been? Where have I been all this time? This is great. And literally now I don't ski, I snowboard, and these guys know I'm going on a trip like once a month during the winter for a week or two to actually go play in the snow. And I think that when I say creating a world around myself, it literally is. It's everything that Fire mentioned, everything that Earth mentioned. I don't necessarily go take a bubble bath after I got my nails done, but Fire, that works for you. That works for you, bro. But I do like to just do those things that I love to do. Like, I'm a beach person, right? So you talk about water. I could go to the beach and be there for months. Other people, they kind of like, okay, I've done that. I'm tired of it. So I just think that it always depends on what it is that is important to each and every one of us. I like to bike. I'm not a mountain biker like Earth. Earth likes to go. I like to chill and cruise on like some sort of paved little road and get a little just a little stroll on the bike. This guy likes to go down the mountain, like going 75 miles an hour or something, all kind of jumps and whatnot. So it's just interesting hearing. It goes back to that subjectiveness of the whole thing, right? Like I do like bubble baths, not with the music and like the way that Fire does it or whatever. More so with my lady, but it's always subjective, and it's just interesting hearing how everyone has like we all like to do the same thing. We all express love in the same way. It's just a little nuance that's just a tad bit slightly different, which is just interesting.
Yeah, you listening to you talk, what I became present to is, I started thinking about things you were saying, and I was like, okay, yeah, I do those things. And I got what I got just in this moment around self-care is that really I'm just getting back into a full swing of self-care. Because one of my best friends passed away maybe 4 years ago. And it's one of those friends where we did everything together. I met him probably 4 days after I moved, after I graduated from college, basically. And we've been tight. We've been tight ever since. He passed away about 4 years ago. We started mountain biking together. We started rock climbing, whitewater rafting, everything outdoors. If you saw him, I was somewhere. If you saw me, he was somewhere around. And then when he transitioned, it was like a hole, a gap. And even when I went out to go mountain biking, or I went to road ride, or whatever I went to do, I found myself at some point along the way crying, because I would get on a part of a trail or a road course or something. One thing about it when I went out, that it would bring back a memory of like he and I riding or something. And I'll be like, dang, this is familiar. And then next thing you know, it's like, woof. And if I'm road riding, I'm like, 15, 20 miles away from my house. So then I have to turn around and go back. I literally cut my ride short because I just could not continue. And I'm really getting like in this moment how for so long I actually did deprive myself of self-care. But just listening and being in this conversation, it's just bringing me present to that. Other than that, I just wasn't present to that at all. And when you brought up, for example, going on the mountain snowboard trip, you said, yeah, I'm so excited. That's why I keep sending you guys pictures and links, and you probably like, what's wrong with this dude? Because it's like you awoke something that had been asleep, really. And my zest for doing outdoor sports and extreme sports and adrenaline, like it's coming back in like this massive way. Even I can look at a snowboarding video. I don't know if I sent you all this video. This guy was in his cave snowboarding. Like my adrenaline levels like shot through the roof the moment I saw it, like it did in the past, before my boy passed away. And so it's really like awakening something. So this is a really good conversation.
And to me, what literally just happened to Earth, not even what he said, what literally just happened to Earth, to me, that's love.
Exactly.
That's love. Because I can tell you guys this. You all three know how, just to give the audience a little context, the Elements, we're going on a trip to Colorado to go snowboarding together. And so these three guys know how I was just so like, hey, we got to do it. And I'm up here trying to coordinate schedules and figure out dates and get a place to stay. And we're still trying to book flights and all that. However, I can tell you that what I said when I said spending time with my friends, and when I said something like snowboarding, hobby, right? Something like snowboarding, I will get to do both of those at once. And to me, that's love.
Exactly. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring up this conversation. You guys expressed it so beautifully. You guys take for granted, given at the place where you guys are in your lives, that this is ubiquitous. This is not ubiquitous. You have no idea how many people are out there suffering each and every day and not taking good care of themselves, not doing the activities which make them happy and alive. Like you said last week, water present. Some people are dead and indifferent and apathetic and cynical inside. And so what I want to produce tonight is a conversation to have people, like Earth said, remember those times.
Awaken
Exactly.
within themselves.
Exactly.
And that to me is just amazing, bro. I didn't even know that. Like, I did not know that you had, like, you were dealing with that, and that we actually have awakened that within you. And Fire probably was the most reluctant one to join on the trip. He probably was the most reluctant one because it's a lot of moving parts for him, and we get it. You have a family and all that or whatnot, but Fire, you see the impact that you're having now.
Well, I'm this conversation turned into something that is beautiful. I'm in my body. I'm watching this happen. I'm real present right now, yo. I can't even explain it. It's amazing. What I'm experiencing is how when we talk about love in action, it's rooted in the being. It's not really there's no attachment to even the activity. It's just who you get to be in the moment, right? It's like when you think about love in the context of relationships, there's a lot of attachment to the person. And I'm just like I can't wait for my wife to get back because I'm experiencing in myself the difference in my consciousness, the difference between when I'm at moments when I'm attacked, I feel like attached to her. Like I don't want her to leave. Where you going, babe? Where you going? Why you doing? I'm coming. Like our kids always tease us, right? They always like, Mom's going to the store. Dad, you going too? You know, our dad's going to go get gas. Mom, you riding? Those are moments of extreme attachment. But then there's this other echelon of love where it's just like being and basking in one another's presence. That is not about an ego thing or an attachment thing or a fear thing. It's just like this vibrational frequency, man, that is miraculous.
And there's an infinite amount of that.
There's an infinite amount of that,
There's just untapped. You could just continue to tap it, and it's just infinite.
Can you grab Tanisha's comment? I think it's good. So Tanisha from Facebook, appreciate you for rocking with us, sis. You are a real elemental week in and week out. No matter what time we start, you right here engaged. So what you said was, so what I'm hearing is that love is the awakening to the experience happening in the moment that brings you the awareness that you are alive. God Almighty, drop the mic.
Oh yeah,
drop the mic. Hey, we need little noisemakers.
Right.
It's about aliveness. It's about joy. It's about fun. You know, how was it when you were a kid? You know, we've become adults and so mature, and we act, you know, as if we're so stiff, you know, these days. We don't do the things that truly make us happy anymore. You know, we're not taking that self-care of us, you know, for ourselves. We're not going on the walks. We're not enjoying the museums. We're not enjoying music and art and all the beautiful aesthetics of life. You know, life is rich. You know, it's beautiful colors and beautiful flavors. You know, it's just so amazing if you really just pay attention and take a look around, you know. But we've been bogged down by jobs and bogged down with bills and bogged down with this and bogged down with that. So much negativity and mud around us that it's really just time to live and thrive and enjoy ourselves. And that is the real definition of love. Love yourself.
Oh yeah, and just to show a little love and give a shout out. Speaking of the comments, fire. Look, elementals, we love all of you. Okay, and it's to us, it's to the naked eye. It appears that about 99% of our following are females. So every time I see a male in the comment, Melvin Waters, I see you, bro. Appreciate you listening. Just want to give you a shout out because you and hey, I see you too, James Davis. Look, the men are starting to pop up out of the woodworks, guys.
They always been there.
Starting to pop up out of the woodworks. James Davis and Melvin Waters. Want to give you guys a shout out because, you know, this is a conversation for the men and the women to have, not just the men talking to the women. We thought we were talking to the men at first. And then all of a sudden we were like, oh man, only women are showing up to our thing here, man. So it's good to see some of the guys out there who are you know, showing up too, because I think consciousness is starting to take over and getting back to the world when that I was talking about as far as the world view. I see more things like what happened to Earth tonight. That's my worldview. And I see the elements attracting more occurrences like what happened with Earth, where people are actually starting to get in tune with a part of themselves that they've forgotten. And I think that's part of what we serve as, is just a mirror for everyone to see some part that you've forgotten. So Earth, I just really want to thank you for sharing that tonight, man, because I feel honored, man, that me getting to go snowboard is awakening you. Like, that's an honor. You know, I'm like, let's go, baby. Let's go. We're gonna have all kind of videos for everybody to see. And you know, once Wind re-uploads my videos that you deleted, we're also gonna put out a vlog that we actually recorded. But Wind, you know, kind of went behind my back and deleted some segments. So we're gonna have to have a heart to heart after the show. When see that guy right there, he's the culprit. So he's the one that's slowing down the content. That guy right there, the one that's slowing down the content.
And it's a beautiful vlog. I mean, I saw it the other day. You guys are going to be amazed by it.
Yes. As soon as Wind goes back and helps Fire to get the information off of his phone.
I'm out.
But I want you guys to notice something too, is that, you know, in all the behaviors and all the activities that you guys mentioned, they were all constructive, right? And one of the things that I wanted to get to is that a part of loving yourself is being constructive and progressive and always being considerate about, does this serve me? Is this pushing me forward? Does this really make me happy? Am I comfortable? Not for comfort's sake, but am I truly comfortable and at peace? Does this bring me tranquility? Things of those sorts. These are the inquiries that you have to continuously be involved with, you know, to really enjoy a great life.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Enjoying a great life. I love that. And see, there I go, just kicking the word around. Just hey, love it, love it, love you guys. Elementals, love you too. Yeah.
Let's go to the comments real quick before we get up out of here.
All right.
What parting comments do you guys have?
You talking about the comment? You talking about the comments, right?
The
Fire?
comments,
Oh, okay. Go
You
ahead.
want James or you want Tatanisha?
James.
James, my man.
So, good brother James coming to us from YouTube said, "Women are starved of this awareness and sensitivity in today's men. I can easily see why women dominate the audience here." Ah, wow, man. That's major because it's something that I said when we were in the ideation phase of the relaunch, is that I sense that our audience would be dominated by women, and not for the purposes of them being nosy, but for the purposes of them gaining insight and really being enlightened to the other side of masculinity, or I should say an introduction into conscious masculinity, which was our goal. So yeah, we appreciate the observation.
Yes.
And
what I do know is that there's a level up culture out there, right? There's a boss culture, whatever. In essence, what I'm saying is that everybody wants to elevate, everybody wants to progress, everybody aspires to get to other levels. So our content is accessible to each and everyone, and it will get out there to everybody, men and women, young and old, because it really is a universal conversation. It's really about living a great life and being happy.
I like it. Fire, you want to read this last comment before we?
Yeah. Let me grab Tatanisha. Tatanisha from Facebook said, "This is one of the few places, especially on social media, where the divine feminine can come and truly witness the divine masculine. It's so needed as we heal and learn the art of self-love, which ultimately love for the world, agape love."
That's beautifully said.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Sheesh. I don't know, man. I'm kind of moved right now. I'm almost speechless, but I'm gonna get myself together. And let's start with Water parting comments, and then we'll go clockwise, and I'll close this out since I got the show next week. Clockwise. Water, earth, wind, fire.
I hope we can pull this off this time. So I will be brief and succinct, just to say that to me, the energy that has been generated from this conversation is love. And whether you're actually here live on the stream, or if you watch this later or listen to this later, just the audio version, I think that if you allow yourself to get present and still, you'll be able to pick up on that same energy that we were feeling tonight. And to me, that is love. All
nice. Nice. You sure it's me and not fire? You sure? Y'all know I mess up like clockwise, counterclockwise. But yeah, this is a great conversation. And I would just leave everybody with, like, don't be afraid to express your love and however that looks, because sometimes we withhold our love because the expression of it may occur weird or may occur a certain way, so we think. And it could actually occur that way or not. And I would just say, don't be afraid to express that, because there's someone else who can actually, like, be in tune with that. who can actually feel that, whatever that expression is. And that's all a part of like really knowing yourself and being the full expression of yourself. It's really like how you express, or not being afraid to express love, not expressing it necessarily in language. As Water said earlier, we just kind of use this word and just throw it around, like we do a lot of words. We just throw the word around and say, okay, this is what it is. But just be able to express that in both ways. You can say it and in how you move, how your actions. And it doesn't have to be actions that somebody else thinks should be expressed in regards to showing love. It's just your own expression of that. Period. So yeah, that's what I want to leave you with.
And I want to leave you guys with this. I hope that you guys heard the elementals in the audience on how important our presence is on social media. I hope that you guys don't take it lightly, because we bring something very unique to the space. And for the audience, I want to say this, is that you're a big deal. We think that it's easy to make a human being, and it is, relatively speaking, but you were the sperm that hit the egg, and you were the one that out of millions were born. Don't take yourself lightly. Treat yourself well. Do the things that you love to do. And don't allow other people to treat you otherwise. Treat other people with kindness. Be gracious to other people. Be merciful to other people, and be gracious and merciful to yourself. And that's how I'm going to end on that.
Man, incredibly well said by all three of you guys. So I'll close out by saying this. I got a challenge. And the challenge is to, when you think about the concept of love and what it means for you, give yourself some space to be with it and feel it and not even give it language. I challenge you to go beyond your taught, conditioned, programmed limitations of love. So whenever you feel love and you feel it in your body, physically, and you feel it and you have words for it in your mind, but before you say to yourself, this is what I know to be love, and then let it go and see where it goes. Because my wager is that most of us have placed a limitation on even feeling what love is based on what we were taught. So the language is limiting in and of itself. Try not to give it words. Right? When you listen to Earth talk about snowboarding, or you listen to Water talk about snowboarding, listen to Earth talk about biking, you listen to me talking about being in the zone when I played football, I wasn't thinking like I love this ish in the moment. I wasn't even thinking, I was just being. There was no thinking occurring. But I can tell you that it felt amazing, that it felt out of body. So resist the urge to give it language and allow yourself to be. Next week, the topic is this. What is heaven on earth? What is heaven on earth? And the follow-up to that is, are we responsible for creating or perpetuating it? What is heaven on earth conceptually? And are we responsible for creating or perpetuating it? So I'm gonna leave y'all with that. Let that hang, let that bang around in your consciousness for a week. We'll see y'all next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Perhaps. Peace.
Maybe.